and this is my channel, Bar None 11970. It is November 8th, quote-unquote, Election Day. The 7:30 p.m. is the time, Eastern Standard Time. We are live, and I'd like to welcome everybody to my channel, where we get an opportunity for you, the subscribers, to voice your opinions, ask some questions, make some comments, and let your voices be heard. To give just the current update, at this point, plenty of places are not even closed yet for the election of 2016. Surprisingly enough, we have Trump currently, as of now, 19 points or electoral votes, and Hillary with 3. Obviously, like most of the places, there's like 1% to 2% of the votes, quote unquote, in. So we'll have to see what's going to happen right now. But actually, as I speak about this, Trump is up to 24, and Clinton is still at 3. Let's hope it stays that way. How nice would that be if Hillary Clinton ended up with 3 votes total? I would love to see that, but I'm sure the rig will be in. But if you'd like to leave a question, if you'd like to make a comment, please do. And I want to say hello to the people that are arriving. Melviny Kiss My Hiney, that's an interesting way to start out. Welcome. Sweet Serenity, welcome. Kennedy Lopez, welcome. And at this point, I want to hear what you guys think about this. Did you go and put your vote in? What do you think about the system? What do you think your turnout is going to be? What would you change? Any of your voices out there, because this should be all about we the people. So I don't usually answer or respond to the comments, but this is going to be a video where I'm going to absolutely do that. And unlike Clinton, I don't need the questions in advance. So if you are tuning in now live, you can ask any questions you want. Keep in mind that I am not a professional, though I may play one on TV. You can ask me any questions, and I will do my best to answer them. Obviously, any kind of inappropriate comments or questions will be ignored, so let's keep it on the nice side. So what I want to start out with is, if one of the questions I would ask you all is, if you had the opportunity to change anything about this current system, what would you change? And I know one of the biggest things I would say is, right off the bat, we need to get rid of the two-party system. We should not have Democrats, Republicans, and it should just be individual people. Because you'll notice if people tend to go one way or the other, they'll tend to stick with their candidates no matter what. And I noticed that on both sides, because I've paid attention to both sides, that people will applaud things no matter what they are. And one of the things I didn't like last night that I was watching at one of Trump rallies, I forget the singer's name, but he's a big gun advocate. And he was talking about the fact that he was making fun of the animal rights people that were waiting outside. Ted Nugent was his name. And he was talking about how he's going to shoot an extra animal almost on spite. He was bragging about having deer blood on his outfit and things like that. And you know what? As much as I want somebody like Trump, because he's a better option than Clinton, I mean, make no mistake, I've said it before, I don't believe any one person is going to be able to change anything, but if I had to pick one of the two, I would absolutely pick Trump. But to have somebody like that come on and actually say something so utterly ridiculous, and the problem was, people actually applauded. And it shows when you have a two-party system, there are times where people just want a candidate so bad that they'll applaud and cheer and believe in everything that they say. So I think that's got to we have to get rid of that. We have to have Americans that want to become president, and anybody could vote for them based on what they represent and not who they are. The other thing I would get rid of is electoral votes. Because, for example, if you have a smaller state that only has 3 electoral votes, well, you could have millions of people in that state vote, and it only comes out to 3 electoral votes. So the voices should be determined by the individual vote, and not how many points you can get. And I think that is another problem. So let's read some of the things that people are saying, and I want to make sure I give shout-outs to everybody. So if you want to leave comments, please do. Any updates you want, please let us know. Let's see. Cameron Guard says, all right, Trump is winning. So far, so good. We'll see what happens. 777, always a pleasure. Share and like all. And yes, if you do that, I appreciate that. Call me. It's either Zabi or Zabai. Hey, Chris. Welcome. Welcome. Sweet Serenity totally agrees, says no more electoral college. They definitely need to get rid of that. We need to make it more of individualism. In other words, people voting for other people, for candidates they believe in. So they don't have to be pigeonholed with what one political party says. So we got to get rid of the political party systems. That's my opinion if we want this to work right. Call Me Zabi says, I honestly still think Hillary is going to win. Let's hope that's not the case because I've said numerous times that neither one is really going to help us, but we already know how Hillary is going to be, so we'll have to see. Uh, Jorge Flawless says, I guess he went to say I voted Trump. Well, I'm glad you decided to put yourself in there and register yourself as a registered slave. Remember, when you go to vote, you have to register. You have to check that box that says, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" So when you do that, you are you're volunteering your servitude to remind them that you are part of their system. So I understand why people are doing it, but just be careful. We got Travis Fleming says, I've been loving your channel. Keep up the good work. Thank you. All right. Jorge Flawless says, what are your thoughts on Florida? Well, as of now, it's a very close race from what I've seen. You're talking about, I think, as of now, and as only a few minor percentages in so far, that Hillary Clinton is leading, but I think maybe by 2% at this point. But I mean, at this point, I mean, when you're talking anywhere from 2% to only 30% of the votes already in, counted for, and so many other places that yet have even come close to closing yet, it's still a long way. Like, for example, New Hampshire right now, 1% of their votes are in. North Carolina, 1% of their votes are tabulated so far. So they are saying that if Trump can win Florida, that will be a good sign. So that remains to be seen. But, the news is going to tell you everything that you don't want to hear. They're going to do everything they can for Hillary. So we'll have to see what happens. But definitely too early to tell. So let's see what else we got here. Travis Fleming says, love the Oregon you make. Thank you for that. I actually spent the day. It was beautiful out today. It was about 60 degrees. So I took an opportunity to make a couple of more of my Oregon, what they're called Oregon Tower Busters, and I'm not going to really go majorly into that at all. If you're interested in anything like that, it's in the link in the description. So I make Oregon products and things like that, but I appreciate that you guys love that stuff. All right, so let's see what else we got here. So yeah, if you want to leave comments, I'm going to read pretty much every one of them, provided they are respectful. Let's see. 777 says, put the federal government back into constitutional requirements. I could definitely see that. I mean, it definitely has to be more in the hands of the people. There's too much government controlling too many things, too many regulations, too many laws, too much division. We should go back to the days where it was simpler, where less is more. Eventually, they're going to create so many laws you won't be able to say or do anything. And we have to really start taking control of this because remember, it's we the people. It doesn't matter how many people are in government. We are the ones that take control of everything ultimately if we decide to stand up. So that's a good point, 777. So Bob Huff says we should be legalizing opium also, not just marijuana. That I'm not so sure about. I mean, marijuana is one of those things I could definitely see for its health reasons. But the last thing you want is somebody on opium, which, is a hallucinogenic drug, being in possession of a firearm or a motor vehicle. I definitely would not trust being in a plane with somebody, high on opium. So, that one's a little bit questionable, but you can get actually some very beneficial benefits from the marijuana plant if you actually extract the oil from it. I've heard, and my belief is it definitely can help cure people's illnesses, if not help them. All right, so let's see what we got. So, if you want to read comments, place comments, please do. Stephen Spears says, yes, bring back God's laws. Well, I guess that depends on what God you worship. So that's where you have to be careful, Stephen, because, your God may be different than somebody else's. So that one is going to be a little interesting because it's going to be based on a belief system and where you are. So, I mean, if you believe in Satan, for example, well, you're going to want to follow their God's laws. So that one, it should be freedom of religion, freedom of choice. So you can't really make laws based on what is considered your God because there'd be plenty of people that might be, not following that. So that's a little harder to base laws on. But I understand what you're saying. In other words, keep it a little simple. Call Me Xavier says this guy knows. Well, I don't know if I know. I just try and speak from a generic point of view, just a regular person trying to speak their word. I mean, I have no agendas. I have no scripts. And I just want to be just a regular person that cares enough to pay more attention to what's going on other than what you see on TV and what's going on in the sports media and the entertainment media. To me, this is very important. Sunbeam Sting says maybe Gary Johnson is a better choice instead of Trump or Clinton. Hard to say at this point, but unfortunately, independents never get a chance because when they do all the debates and everything, they don't include them. So, this is supposed to be where we're supposed to get our representatives and they're supposed to give everybody a fair chance, and yet you only see them with the Republicans and Democrats. And that's another reason why I think you have to get rid of the two-party system. You have to just have individual people. So this way, everybody gets a fair chance. So it should not be just the two highest in the Democratic and Republican. It should be everybody gets the opportunity. So unfortunately, we'll probably never know if Gary Johnson is a better choice or not. It's unfortunate. We got up north of the 49th. Says need to get rid of life career politicians. I definitely agree with that. I think there should be term limits. I really think, honestly, it should be every year. So this way they're held more accountable. Because, I mean, like, for example, with the president, you have 4 years. I mean, you can end up, everybody loves you in the beginning, and then slowly but surely you're doing the wrong thing. Years go by, and we the people are the ones that suffer. So I think if you did presidential elections every year, well, that would make it a little bit more of a priority for them to actually do things that they promise because they could lose their job very quickly. It should be like any job. It should be based on performance. Just imagine if you were an employer and you hired somebody and for the next 4 years you were stuck with them no matter what they did. You wouldn't be too happy with that. So the system needs to be improved. I think there shouldn't be term limits in that sense because if the people really like the person, every year they can keep voting them in. But that's the people's decision. But I think they should definitely be up once a year in all branches of government so they can be responsible every year instead of thinking they get a free pass. And that includes like Supreme Court. The Supreme Court justices. They shouldn't be in there for a lifetime. Because if they're not doing what the people want, they should be able to be cast out. That's what supposedly a democracy is all about. So, thank you for your question. We got Melviny Miss Kiss My Hiney. Interesting choice of a username. I voted Gary Johnson, so I didn't have to vote Trump or Hillary. P.S. My name is Patsy Abraham. I got accused of being a racist because of my real name. That's a problem with this world these days. Everybody is appointing everybody to be racist. You know what? There's nothing wrong with being proud of your race or proud of who you are. And just because you're proud of your race doesn't mean you hate other races. I mean, we use the race card now way too easily, where if you say anything that's not perfect, you're considered a racist. And I've never seen animals worry about things like that. Like you notice like fish. You'll see the same type of fish following each other. You see animals, they go in packs. They tend to follow their own kind. That's just part of nature. That doesn't mean, the reason zebras hang out with other zebras isn't because they hate, you know, uh, elephants. It's just that they relate with their own kind. It's a better chance of reproducing if you're associating with your own kind. But that doesn't mean you hate them. There's nothing wrong with a black person liking black people, or a Chinese person liking Chinese people, or a white person liking white people. That doesn't mean you hate the others. So we got to get rid of these race cards and these people that are just so politically correct and get offended by everything these days. So it's unfortunate that people do that. Frank Millette says landslide Trump. I guess will uh, remain to be seen how that goes. Up north on the 9th says, come on, no one gets her events. No one go. Oh, I'm sorry. No one goes to her events, but they vote for her. Well, you can't always base it on the fact of if people go to events or not. I mean, look at how many people were going to Bernie Sanders, and look how that ended up. So it just shows that maybe more people are motivated to see if who they might think is very famous, or they don't have time to go, or they don't have the vehicle. So you can't always base it on that. All right, let's see what we got. All right, Sunbeam Sting, and forgive me, I feel a little congested today for some reason. I don't know why. Sunbeam Sting says, vote Gary Johnson, prevent Hillary and Trump from getting 270 electoral votes. That's a little too late at this point. I mean, a lot of places are already closed. Another group of them closed at 7:30. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like, and that's what I talk about. Third-party candidates don't get the fair shot. And that's not fair. I mean, we have to hear all sides, not just, oh, here are the two. Like I say all the time, the symbolism of the bald eagle, and it shows the symbolism of how this government works, is you have the eagle, they are always projecting the wings spread apart, which gives the illusion of separation. You have a left wing and you have a right wing, but if you follow those wings in, they're attached to the same entity. So make no mistake, this whole system is corrupt and needs to be taken down and restarted. Up north to the of the 49th, voting for Johnson is giving Hillary your vote. Not necessarily, because that's one less vote for Hillary, and obviously she needs all the votes that she can get at this point. So I guess it could go both ways depending on it, right? As of now, Trump is leading. We'll see where it goes because it's way too early, and we'll see if the corruption actually does happen. Six Magic Man, welcome, says they kept Amendment 2 off the ballot. And that's for, and he writes, clarifies, Amendment 2 is for weed, well, I think you meant legalization. It already is illegal in most states. Yeah, that's something they don't really talk about much. It's not politically popular. You've been conditioned all your life to be told that, a plant that grows naturally from the ground is actually bad for you. And they're not going to really talk about those kind of things, unfortunately. It's going to take somebody that just like somebody like a Jesse Ventura, even though I don't always believe in him, at least he had the ability to talk about those things, and sometimes that's what gets the foot on the ground. All right, Stacy B says, why not opium is probably not much more dangerous than the pharma drugs everyone is on now. Well, I honestly don't know about opium enough to make a proper determination. I've never tried it. So my question would be, if you were on an airplane and you knew the pilot was on opium, would you want to get on that plane? And I think more people would say no than they would say yes. So maybe that could be we're not educated enough. And if that's the case, people need to start educating us on the benefits of that. But I would not be able to even come remotely close. I mean, I don't do any drugs, so I can't even say. I think I've tried marijuana like twice in my lifetime. And I tried to inhale, but I remember in college I tried it. It made me want to fall asleep. So I was like, why am I wasting my time with this when I can be partying on the weekends? So, Six Magic Man, legalization. Oh, yeah, that's what I thought you meant. Okay, a couple of people talk about weed. Of course, with a person's username like Weed Jesus, I can kind of understand why. Obviously, if neither Democrat or Republican is going to vote any kind of legalization of marijuana, and if they even did anything remotely close, it would be legalization for medical marijuana. So that's what happens when we have just this two-party system. It's just not going to give you what some of the people want. Canu Custer, or it's Canuster, forgive me if I get these wrong, says the establishment tried every trick in their book, and I believe the people have Clinton fatigue, and they're coming out en masse for Trump. I could definitely see that, and I can understand that. And how good would that be if Trump ultimately wins, despite pretty much almost all of the media against him, all the nonstop attacks, all the lies, all the information that was given that was not proper, and Trump still comes out on top. I mean, like I said, I'm very curious to see if he becomes president, what he will do. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's what you don't know, because we know if Clinton becomes president, it's going to be more of the same. It's probably going to get worse. With Trump, I think there's always that what if. So, I mean, I have a little bit of faith, but I still believe in the fact that one person should be able to take care of your life. You have to do it on your own. Six Magic Man says weed is okay. God made it. Well, weed is a natural plant, so yes, absolutely. Frank Millette says Germany has to get microchip next year. The Muslims' crime rate is 200,000 every month. We can't let Hillary win. Last thing you want is to have microchips planted in anyone or anything. They will use it in a way to scare you or think it's some kind of convenience. But remember, people are so worried about what happened with the Patriot Act with your cell phones and your computers. Well, why would you want something implanted in your body? Who knows what they could do with that? What if they somehow had the ability to plant off a charge in that microchip and kill you or give you shocks? That's an extreme. But if anything, they can track everything that you do. Who's to say they don't put microphones in there or something like that? I would never. I don't care if they made that law. There's no microchip ever going in me willingly. I mean, if they did it without my knowledge, it's different. But that I would definitely never condone that or consent to it. So trust me on that, Frank. You do not want that. There's better ways to take care of the problem, and that's making your government do its job for what the people want. You don't take the easy way out because it's not going to be good for you. Trust me on this. All right, Six Magic Man says, can't believe in religion and find weed sin. Um, I mean, why would God create sin before creating people? Hard to say. Again, it depends on what God you're referring to because, each person's going to have a different God. And, I mean, religion, it's hard to debate because it's not based on fact. It's based on what we hope is to be true. I mean, as much as people may not want to really grasp that fact, all religions are based on, your hopes. And you're resonating with something that's, you think it sounds right. We don't know it as fact. I mean, unless you've actually spoken to God or your God and he sat you down and talked to you about the stuff, we're basing it on what other people told us. So Six Magic Man says Jill Stein 2020. I guess that remains to be seen. Unless things change, the third-party candidates have a very difficult road because they just don't give them the fair chance. All right. Melvin E. Kiss My Hiney says, I feel bad for not knowing more about voting for my state officials. I've really been paying attention to the state. I need to step that up. The more you step it up and the more you learn, the more you realize that votes really don't count and people are selected, not elected. Please learn about things like the Act of 1871. If you're going to research deep. It's part of a corrupt system, so we got to acknowledge these truths. All right, Luke Martinez says, if Hillary is selected, do you think Donald Trump will remain within politics? Very good question. I guess, there's always 2020. I hope we won't have to find that out because I don't want to wait 4 years and have 4 years of Hillary. So I would rather take my chances with Trump than I ever would with Hillary. Would he go into politics in 4 years? It remains to be seen. But if it's a close race, or if he knows, obviously he's been beaten to death in this whole thing, this whole experience. And I don't know if he'd want to go through that all over again, especially if he believes in his heart that the system is rigged. I mean, why would you want to put yourself through that yet again? So I guess that remains to be seen, but let's hope we don't have to find out. All right, Six Magic Man says you can always write in the Queen's name. Well, there you go. I don't think that will be a good one for us in this country, but maybe over in the UK. All right, let's see. Let's find some more questions. All right, we're going to skip that one. And we definitely don't need a queen here. That's why we separated ourselves from, well, supposedly separated ourselves from Britain. All right, Nano Joe says down. Oh, we're going to skip that one. We're not going to have, well, the Zionists, we'll leave it there, who own central banks. So instead of just pointing out a specific type of person, why don't we just say that we're down with the private central banks and the Federal Reserve? That's definitely something neither candidate will talk about. Banks are the main cause, especially the Federal Reserve is the main cause for poverty around the world. And unless we stop borrowing this fiat debt notes from a corrupt banking system, no president is ever going to change anything because they're going to be obligated to borrow that quote-unquote money that we have to pay back for. So The biggest thing that no candidate even talks about, even people like Jill Stein and Gary Johnson and, Bernie Sanders, none of them talk about ending the Federal Reserve and having our own currency. The last time somebody did that was John F. Kennedy, and we all know what happened to him. If you don't know about Executive Order 11110, I highly recommend you look that up. All right, so we have, let's see, 777 says a monetary system that uses precious metals, and in the Fed, there you go. Definitely precious metals, and it can be done because if you raise the value of the precious metals, you can definitely, we've done it before in the past, we can do it again. You can create more fiscal responsible country using money backed by something instead of just printing to no end, because there always is an end, because you cannot go to the moon with money and it'll just be valueless. The more you print, the lower you devalue it. And that's why since the enacting of the Federal Reserve in 1913, we've lost over 96% of our currency's value. All right, up north of the 49th, Bernie Sanders was screwed out of the DNC. Didn't you read WikiLeaks? Not only did I read it, I've done videos about it. I've talked about this fact that it shows that the system is rigged. You could have known that way before WikiLeaks. I've been talking about that for years, and people way longer than I have. And that's the sad part. And it just goes to show, if you're not part of the banking system and the banking elites, and you're not going to work for them, you're not going to get far, because money is what really controls government. So people need to get this. All right. Okay, we Jesus, nicely put, Barnum. Thank you. Let's see. Six Magic Man, money is not real. Absolutely. This is currency, not money. It's debt notes. You have to borrow it to create it, plus with interest, which they don't create that amount. So if they printed 1 million fiat debt notes and they lend it to the banks lend it out plus interest. So if you lend out all 1 million to, let's just say, one person, well, they have to pay back interest. Well, how are you going to pay back the interest if you borrowed all the money they printed? So that's how the scam goes, and that's why they talk about things like the fiscal cliff and the debt ceiling, is they only print the principal amount and never the amount that covers the interest, so you keep having to borrow more to cover for it, and it goes up and up and up, and this is something no politicians will talk about. And again, that's why I'm talking about even people like Gary Johnson and Jill Stein and all these others, they don't talk about it either. So how much are they really for us if they don't know how the monetary system is one of the most important things in this country? Melvin, you kiss my hiney says, sorry, I'm laughing. It just shows, I'm going to be 46 tomorrow, and it just shows I still have a sense of humor of a 7th grader. He says, Gary Johnson really didn't have the funds to make himself more known. And that's absolutely true. As you could see, they're always trying to tell you, since, you went to your days of programming in school, they're always telling you, it's like, oh, you could be anything you want, including the president. Well, show me a poor president. Show me a person that didn't have millions of dollars that made it as far as somebody like Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. So it shows that this is for the elites. This is a game. If you want to control any country or any of the people, you have to be wealthy. That's why any politician in the world, especially higher up in the politics, like a president or a prime minister or anything like that, you have to be wealthy. So it's that whole thing of, oh, you could be whatever you want. The day I see a homeless person rise up and become president and get the fair opportunity as some billionaire, then I'll believe in that system. Until then, it's just more propaganda lies. All right, let's see. Six Magic Man says the election are held around the fiscal year and almost always end in New York State, which is the United Nations by law. Makes you wonder about 9/11. I definitely have had plenty of videos talking about 9/11, so if you want to check out those, please do. I definitely do not believe their official quote-unquote story, because all stories start out with once upon a time. Sunbeam Sting says Gary Johnson is for the legalization of drugs. That may be true, but not all drugs should be legalized. And if that's all he stands for, we'll never know, because they didn't give him the opportunity to really give that kind of information. But again, the biggest thing that no politician or any candidate talks about is the monetary system. Even not only in this country, all around the world, they don't want to talk about what's really important. Yes, I'm sure some people that smoke pot or want to get the benefits of marijuana by extracting the oil would definitely benefit. But, if you have no money, you're not going to be able to buy it anyway. And if you steal it, you go to jail. So we need to really talk about what's really prioritizing in this country. And they just won't do that. Sweet Serenity says microchips can dislodge and travel. That's definitely a possibility. Trust me, you don't want microchips in your body. Call Me Zabby says, Chris, who do you think was our last good president? In my opinion, it was JFK. I would have to say, of all of the options, JFK would have been the best in the past few decades, and they murdered him for actually speaking out. He's actually going on public talking about secret societies and how we need to fix these things. He wanted to abolish the abolish the Federal Reserve. So, was he an angel? Absolutely not, but he was definitely trying to say about things that were way ahead of his time. And unfortunately, nowadays, he would have been called some crazy conspiracy theorist. But he definitely knew a lot more than what we know now, and that was back in the 60s. So it shows how long this stuff has been around. So this is nothing new. Okay, Sunbeam, you've made your point about Gary Johnson. Six Magic Man, they're already putting microchips in your bank cards. Well, that's an easy way to fix that. Number one, if you don't have a bank account, you don't have to worry about any microchips in your bank cards. Number two, you could disable your microchip. All you have to do is take your card. If you see that little area where it kind of sticks out a little bit, just take a nail and hammer it through. But that's why I tell people all the time, if you get out of banks, you don't have to worry about those kind of things. I have a federal credit union, and I use their federal credit union card where I can only use money, quote unquote money, that I have in my account. And they don't have these microchips. And if they did, I would disable it by taking a nail, poking a hole through it. So just because they have it doesn't mean you have to take it. So that's the problem in this world. People just think, oh, well, I might as well have it because it's already there. If you don't want to get out of the system, don't complain about what they're doing. So unfortunately, those are things that we can control. But if it's convenient for you and you don't want to do anything about it, well, there's not much we could say. All right, so let's see. Let's get off the drug thing. We've had enough of that. Adeline Bellicus, and again, forgive me if I say them wrong. Even if Trump wins, how do we know he isn't bought and paid for? Well, you can say it's kind of hard to buy and pay for somebody that's a multi-millionaire, maybe billionaire. So he would definitely, if somebody's going to buy him, they'd have to pay a lot more because he's incredibly wealthy. So, I mean, like I've said, I don't believe anybody should be controlling any of us. There's always some kind of other agenda we'll never know about. They also write, what's real anymore? That's a very good question. I guess how that defines on what you really consider real when everything is made of energy. So that could go pretty deep. And he says, although anyone is better than Hillary, well, that's debatable, but Hillary isn't the worst person in all the world. Because remember, as corrupt as Hillary is, Hillary didn't do it on her own. She worked with plenty of people, as you could see with the WikiLeaks and everything. So, it's not like it's one person doing all this stuff. And when they keep, especially one of the things Trump has to really get, and people need to understand or understand is, he pointed out, oh, Hillary did this, and Hillary was responsible for this. Well, it wasn't her alone. There are plenty of people that are covering things up and also being a part of this. So we have to remember that. It's a bigger part of the picture. It's not just one person. All right, so we're going to stop with the drug stuff. You guys, to me, drugs are not that important. My financial system is more important, and having real money is more important. All right, Six Magic Man says, bar none is correct. Presidents work for the U.S. corporation and are really owned by the Vatican. Absolutely true. These are things people do need to research. And unfortunately, they're going to bow to their masters. And that's why you see anybody that ever visits the Vatican, including presidents, including the Queen of England, they will get down on their knees and kiss the hand of the Pope. You only bow to your leader and to your master. And that's why the Pope bows down and kisses no one. So look into those things. Six Magic Man, 36912 are the universal numbers. Look into frequency. Yep, definitely frequencies are things you can look into. Let's see. Melvini Miss Kiss My Hiney says he also wants to bring home our troops. I'll believe in those things when I see them. I mean, we had Obama say the same exact thing, and look how that went. So promises are one thing, actions are another. So it doesn't matter what somebody says to me, it's what they do. So we haven't learned anything about that other than what they promise. So let's see if they stick with them. Stephen Schick says, even if candidates are selected rather than elected, I would rather not vote than not. Well, you have that right to do that, but like I said, when you check that box, you are subjugating yourself and saying that you're part of a slave system. So that's your choice. That's the thing about freedoms is you're allowed to do the right thing, wrong thing, or nothing. So you have every right to do that. No one should stop you, but there are always consequences for actions. Sweet Serenity says it seems like the candidates are only promising to fix problems they created in the first place. Absolutely. And when do they always talk about these things? During election times. Where's Obama right now? Isn't he still president? What has he been doing the last couple of weeks, last couple of months? Been going out on the road for Hillary. What kind of laws has he passed? Anything that will help them make the country better? And that's another thing I think they should abolish, that a president should not be allowed to do anything for another presidential election. They should be responsible for doing their job, and they should be held accountable for that. I think it's a disgrace that, the last 6 to 8 months of a president's lifespan of his presidency, they just go around doing nothing, saying, well, I'm going to be leaving anyway. How about doing your job until the last minute? That would be nice. All right, we got Pyro Life 9. Welcome. What do you think about the Fed merging with the government? It would not shock me if they did it. They already are in a certain way. Whether it's a true rumor or not, I mean, I don't base things on rumors. I base it on facts. I mean, they work together as of now anyway, so whether they made it official or not really doesn't matter. And that is definitely something we do not want to continue, so we the people better start stepping up and not allowing those things to happen, because if they control the money even more, one day they're going to make some kind of monetary system based solely on credit or solely on digital numbers, and they could just take them away from you. You know, most people don't want to know about these things until they've already happened, so the idea is to fix it before it does. All right, so we're going to skip the drug stuff. All right, let's see some further down. All right, Nevier Fable says, and wrong speaker, the Pope's kiss, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds' hands are in the pictures. Yep, those are people you got to be careful of. Let's see. Six Magic Man says, yep, voting in the United States make you a citizen by default, and you do that based on the 13th Amendment, which means that you are volunteering your servitude, and they legalized in the 14th Amendment, they made the definition of the word citizen definitely something you do not want to be, and that's why they ask you, are you sure, basically, in the making you choose to check those boxes. Byron Portillo says Obama invited to the Cubs after the White House after their win. It's good to know that he's doing things that are important, like going to a baseball game, but this is what they do. All right, let's see. 777 says, what will it take for Barnum to again have trust in the government? Well, to get rid of this government system and to start over again and actually stop allowing people like the media to give all this propaganda and all these lies. People should be held accountable. I mean, you don't see, you see plenty of people upset with what Hillary did. How many politicians stepped down? How many people said, you know what? I am so upset with her corruption or somebody else's corruption that I no longer want to be a part of it, and I'm stepping down. What do you think would happen if the House of Representatives all just said, you know what, we quit. We're not going to be a part of this. But no one wants to do that because they need their job security. They like all the money that they get. And they'll put on the cameras and they'll make a big puff and everything. And they'll say what they want, but their actions speak louder than words. So unfortunately, for me to put trust in the government, they need to do something trustworthy. There's a reason why people joke about how corrupt the government is. It's because it is a joke. So unfortunately, what it will take to basically get rid of the system and start over again and do it better to where people are held accountable. No more of this everybody protecting each other. If you do something wrong, you should be held responsible for it. Stephen Stick says, do you think Hillary will be ever held accountable for her crimes? She hasn't yet, so I highly doubt it. They'll do plenty of investigations, they'll waste plenty of time, and in the end, I don't think she'll see 1 ounce of jail time. I mean, there would have to be something so damning that they have no choice. And I think even if Trump became president, I don't think I think he'll try and say, like, we got to do the better thing, we got to be the better people, and we got to let her go, and what good is it if she's in jail? I don't think they're going to do it because they watch out for each other. So, no, I don't think she'll see it. She will not get the same kind of treatment as we do, us common people. So I don't think she'll ever be held accountable. Right now, she's not being held accountable. She's basically trying to run for president. That's her reward for being a lying piece of garbage. So, anyway, Never Fable says a conspiracy is something that is crazy that has no facts. So-called conspiracy theories are shut down in fear of the truth. Just so you know, a conspiracy is when two or more people conspire to do something. So since all of you are here leaving your comments, you're conspiring. You're conspiring to leave comments. The problem is the media is what made conspiracies sound crazy, like you're a tinfoil hat wearing person. That's to prevent people from actually questioning things for fear of being embarrassed or made fun of or attacked. So, they've definitely cheapened that word. So let's see. Sweet Serenity says no chip in my clear plastic Federal Credit Union card. And there you go. You have a credit union card, you don't have to worry about those things. Stay away from those chips. If you have a credit card that has chips in it, my opinion would be, or at least what I would do, is I would destroy the chip. You could still use, the swipe feature on your credit card because you have that magnetic bar. But if you like being tracked and you like the government and other people to know where you're spending your money and why you're spending your money or how you're spending it or how much are you spending, yeah, then the microchip's great for you. People just really got to be careful. Be careful what you wish for. You're going to get it. All right, let's see. Sunbeam Sins, great. You have this live show. Yeah, I don't do these very often where I get the people to have a chance to leave comments, but I thought it was time. So I hope you guys appreciate it. All right, Never Fable says the chip is the gold thing that looks like a circuit board. Yep. It'll be different in some other cards, but you'll definitely see that like really gold-looking sticker, and it'll kind of bulk out a little bit, like there's something underneath. It'll basically be the size of a chiclet if you sliced it a couple of times really thin, but you'll see it. But again, like I said, if you get out of the banking system, you don't have to worry about things like that. I will not volunteer a chip in any way, shape, or form. It's bad enough that they listen on our phones and on our computers. I mean, how much more information we need to give them? And that's why I will never have these new cell phone security systems. The ones where they say, oh, you could set up a camera in your house and you could, monitor your house from your cell phone. Well, remember, if you can monitor things from your cell phone, so can they. So you want them to have access to what's going on in your house when you're not there? What happens if somebody gets a hold of your phone or gets a way to connect into the system? Then they get to see when you're home and when you're not, who's there, when it's vulnerable, when's the best time to rob things. No, thank you. I mean, it's bad enough they do this stuff. We want to make it easier for them. All right, Brian Portillo says, I think that if Donald Trump wins, he would be assassinated before January. Um, that is definitely a possibility. I think at this point, he's gotten so much like fame from all this, and people have been coming out in droves that I think that would be the start of a revolution. Maybe that's something they want. I guess we'll see. But I mean, if he hasn't been assassinated yet, I don't think that's going to happen. But I guess we'll see if he plays ball or not. All right, let's see. Six Magic Man says the Pope can also change any U.S. law at any time. Why doesn't he, though? I think the reason is if you make things too obvious, people will, go against you. If you're the king, you can only be so cruel and steal from the people so much because eventually they'll say enough is enough and they'll behead you. So, the Pope, most people would never have a clue that the Pope is, in charge of everything. And if he made his presence known, that could anger a lot of people and they could, string him up. So I don't think they want to really get rid of their wonderful opportunity. I mean, back in around 2012, the Vatican was shut down. Their credit card system was shut down because they were caught smuggling drug money. And they shut the credit cards off. How many people even know about that? And yet people will still visit there and they'll still think it's, I mean, if you look in the center of the area where the Pope is, you see a Egyptian obelisk in the center. What does that tell you? It's not what you really think it is. It's all this stuff hidden in plain sight. And I think they like it that way. They like it hidden. They don't want their trump cards being shown, so to speak. Let's see. Melviny Miss Kiss my honey, keep saying Miss. Says, haha, wasn't it you who posted the perfect strangers when they were making fun of the banking system? Yep, that was one of my videos. I think it got a total of like 500 views. Never Fable says, and wrong speaker of the Pope kiss the rock. Oh, we already said that one. Let's go down. Mark Rowe says the TV is 100% fake. There's a reason why they call it a television, and you're watching television programming. And now back to your regularly scheduled program. This is stuff that, people might think is crazy, but, as you can see how the media has been lying and they've been one-sided, they're trying to tell you how to think. And they do it all the time. That's why I knew over a year ago that Hillary Clinton was going to be president, if not at least in the race, and you could see how it is, because they've been doing all these female characters and all this female empowerment on the TV and the movies and music, and they're definitely getting people to get used to something. That's what agendas are all about. 777 says Michelle Obama, he or she. Well, I've never checked under the hood, so I don't know. I know there's a couple of rumors saying that she might have been a male at some point. Who knows? To be honest, I don't care. My thing is, be proud of who you are. If she was once a man, or she is a woman, or she's both, why hide it? And I think that's the problem in this world. People are so afraid to be who they are, and they're so worried about what other people think. Just be yourself. If people don't like it, who cares? Just be yourself. All right, let's see. Let's read a couple more, but then I don't want to get this too long. Let's see if there's somebody who hasn't had the opportunity. Jody Hansen says, hey, Chris, hello. Invader TAC 1001. The Pope, really, it's the Jewish people running things. I'm not even going to get into that part. Donald Bruce says, does anyone believe these numbers? I'm assuming you're talking about the polls. Well, it's hard to say because, it's not the votes that are cast, it's who's counting them. So we already know there's been plenty of proof with WikiLeaks, and they've been proving this over the years that there have been rigged elections. I mean, remember what happened with, what was it, President Bush back with the whole Florida thing. So, this is not something new. 777 says, would bar none reform the prison industrial complex? Obviously, prisons are there to make money. Once you're in prison, you are waiving your 13th Amendment, so you actually are you are a legitimate slave. They don't even have to pay you. I think prison should be for people who commit very nasty crimes. I mean, if you steal from somebody, if you murder somebody, raping somebody, things like that, I don't think you should be thrown in jail for having a potted plant in your backyard. I think it's just too much of a money-making thing right now, and they're taking advantage of it. So, yes, there should be reform, but, one person can't come up with everything. Let's see. Never Fable says, if we can't fight back, then we're never going to see true freedom. You're absolutely right. If we sit back and take it, well, not for nothing. I don't think anybody in this world, male or female, would like to be raped. And if you just sit there and take it, well, guess what? It's going to continue. If you at least fight it, you increase your chances of at least letting them know it's not okay. So my thing is you shouldn't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Let's see. Brian Portillo, did Putin kick out the Rothschilds? From what I understand, that's what they've rumored. Whether that's true or not, we know these days that politicians have a certain point of view when the cameras are on and a certain point of view when the cameras are off. So what they do publicly and what they do privately, I'm sure, are two different things. So very hard to say. So unless you're there with them, you don't know their true intention on anybody. And that's the bad part, unfortunately. And this is their fault. The reason why we don't trust them is not because we're just a bunch of paranoid people. It's because we've caught them on numerous times for decades upon decades of lying and doing the wrong thing. So, they don't take responsibility. Jody Hansen says, what are the latest election results? Let's see if we could see any updates. So let me check on that right now. There's still plenty of states that haven't even closed yet. There are some that are open until 10:30 at night. So we probably won't be seeing any results until, way after midnight tonight. So we'll have to see. As of now, the race to 270, we have Hillary Clinton 75, and Trump had less. Let me see what it was. But again, it's still early. Clinton has 75, Trump has 66. So that's the updated report. As of now, Florida is dead even. You have Trump with 49%, Clinton at 49%. So that's dead even at this point. Looks like Trump is ahead by about 20 votes, but who knows? At this point, it's hard to say what's going to be real and what's not real. Um, we'll have to wait and see. And like I said, whoever becomes president, it's just going to be more of the same, just with a different person. At first, it's going to seem like everything's wonderful, but we don't notice any change until after the first year, close to the second year. And we don't learn our lessons. We keep depending on others to take care of us, and just it's not going to happen the way we want unless we do these things for ourselves. So, 80% of the votes are tabulated so far in Florida, and still way to go. So let's read one or two more, and I don't want to make this very long. Six Magic Man says, what exactly is Obama's legacy? That's a very good question. His legacy is he didn't keep his promises. He didn't close on Guantanamo Bay. He definitely made this country more divided, more full of hate. He definitely did not keep his promises. He definitely made the racial tensions even more. Um, I don't think he did anything that is really worth anything. I mean, his legacy is Obamacare, you know? He wants to attach that to his name. That's not something I'm proud of. All I know is before I was quote unquote woken, I was really happy that Obama became president in 2008. I thought it was actually going to be, thought maybe there would be time for change to have our first African American president. And look how that ended up. So I hope people aren't voting for Hillary just so they could say, oh, we have our first female president. Well, if you're basing your vote on the fact that you know nothing about the politics, or you don't want to hear anything other than the fact of, oh, I want my first female president, well, don't you want somebody of quality? Somebody to do something that we can make this world a better place for? So, to each their own. All right, let's see. Let's read one more. And I want to thank everybody. I really appreciate this. Let's see if we can get a really good question. Somebody want to ask a question now, because I don't want to scroll. Somebody want to ask a very good question or make a very good comment. We'll use that as the last one. The doubling of the national debt. Yeah, that's another legacy. G-Man 539. That's definitely another one of his legacies. He started out at roughly around 10 trillion, ended up with over 20 trillion. So yeah, good job with that, putting us more in debt. So that to me is not a good legacy. He was a very smooth talker. He's very charismatic. He could definitely get people's attention. But, to me, that's a snake oil salesman. That's a person that's trying to sell you something. Salesmen are always going to be your best friends. They're going to laugh at your jokes. They're going to tell you everything's wonderful. They're going to promise you the world. And they end up most of the time disappointing you. So that's why I always liked kind of the way Trump spoke. He may not ever say everything politically correct, but he said it because he meant it. And, me being from New York, and that's where he's from too, I get the way he speaks. He's not sugarcoating things. He's not just saying what everybody wants to say. And Hillary is just a puppet. Literally being fed lines and getting fed the information. She's being told what to say. That to me is not a leader. A leader is somebody that speaks up for themselves or herself and doesn't need somebody else to feed the information. So he may be crass at times, but if you had people talking in a bar or at a private party, I guarantee you half the people that are offended by some of the things he said would probably have said things very similar in their lifetime. So we can't be very hypocritical. And Six Magic Man says, what happens if someone sues Hillary? I guess that would depend on who it is, because you definitely have to have a lot of money, because as you can see, she's even got the FBI in her pocket and the quote-unquote justice system. So I don't think any lawsuits would ever even see the light of day. If anything, they just pay the person off. Money silences people really quick. Let's see. So Jody Hansen, Six Magic Man, Mike Rowe, Sweet Serenity, 5 Artist Liberalis, G-Man 539, Brian Portolio. All you guys and girls out there, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I guess we'll keep it posted, keep watching, and see how this game plays out. And remember, if you are not in the banking system, if you are an independent person and you work for yourself, if you are reliant on you and your family instead of the government, you don't have to worry about what any of them do. So for me, It doesn't really matter who's going to end up president because I'm self-sufficient. I get things like gold and silver. I stack up food and water. I stay away from stocks and bonds. I work for myself. I don't have a bank account, and I try and do things for myself and for my family. So I really don't care who ends up being president. But the rest of you should get out of the system while you can. Be very independent, think for yourself, and never be afraid to question, even if it goes what the majority think. Because for years, I was told I'm some crazy conspiracy theorist. I had so many people saying that I didn't know what I was talking about. And a lot of stuff I was talking about, and I stuck to my guns with, even though it was not the popular thing, ended up being right. And I'm sure there will be more of that. So never be afraid to stand out of the crowd, be yourself, and love yourself. Don't worry about if other people love you or not. So many people spend their whole life trying to get others to like them. Just as long as you like yourself and your family and friends like who you are, who cares what the majority think? You don't have to be popular. You just have to be you. So hopefully you'll do that. So I guess we'll find out tomorrow. I want to thank all the people for the birthday wishes. As of midnight tonight, it will be November 9th. I will be turning 46 years old. That's why you could see my channel's name is Barnun 11970 because I was born. The 11 is November, the 9 is the day, and 70 is the year. So I was born November 9th, 1970. So I will officially be 46 years old tomorrow. So I wonder what my birthday present will be. I hope it's not Hillary Clinton because I'll tell you this much. I'll wrap it up and send it back. So thanks for watching, guys. Thank you for leaving your comments. I hope you appreciated this. And to those I didn't get the time for the questions or the comments, please forgive me. That's just otherwise it'll go on forever. And to all the people just coming in, thank you so much. And enjoy the ride. Have a great night, everybody. And don't forget, have your trolls spayed or neutered.